It's not coming up as live, is it? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Gooner. I am your host, Ryan, and today I am joined by none other than Sam. Sam, how you doing?
Hello, mate. How's things?
Yeah, not bad, man, not bad.
Good.
What about you? All good?
Yeah, mate. All good. All good.
Yeah. So let's get straight into it. Arsenal had a game at the weekend against Brighton and Hove Albion. It ended in a nil-nil stalemate, and it was a pretty pretty intense game, wasn't it, Sam? It was a bit of a strange game for me.
Yeah, I mean, the game in itself was just bizarre, considering you've got that cross-field wind, you've got torrential rain, and then you've got Brighton, who are in good form this season, who come out the come out the blocks very quickly. They decided to essentially press everything. Cucurella is a strong, powerful runner down their left, and it was intriguing to see how we coped with that game. But I don't know. I think in the grand scheme of things, it's a point gain, and it's a good point considering I believe Leicester's been there and lost already this season. So it depends how people want to look at it, really. But yeah, it's definitely a very interesting game.
Yeah, I think as well for me, what stood out the most was how good our defense was. I think Ben White and Gabriel are starting to strike up a very formidable partnership there. And in my ratings, I actually gave Ben White man of the match. I thought he was phenomenal.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think that he was very good. I believe I saw something over the weekend saying that Arteta was saying that Gabriel's still struggling with the English language to a certain degree, but he spoke about how Ben White and Gabriel are striking up a partnership, which ultimately is the crux for a lot of teams. And as we've said here on the pod, a lot of the time, partnerships are very key in the game of football, especially at centre back, because if one goes, the other one knows where they need to be, if they need to cover, or what the other one's weakness is. How can they adapt their game to cover up and to essentially strengthen their overall game? And I think with Gabriel, I would probably say he's the more dominant out of the two, but Ben White seems to have settled quite quickly, and it's good to see. Obviously, a lot of people will doubt him after the Brentford game, but again, you've got to take into consideration that Brentford team, how he just settled, and you can tell from then to now is a big difference. So you know, yeah, Ben White had a brilliant game. He knew their attacking strengths, which I think in certain situations helped him in some aspects. But overall, he kept them quiet. And if you look at the majority of Brighton's shots, they were from range because they couldn't break us down essentially. And as you always say, if you can't win, don't lose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw an analogy online earlier, or it might have been earlier yesterday. Gabriel goes in for the fight, and Ben White cleans it up.
Yeah,
And that kind of reminded me of the partnership between Per Mertesacker and Laurent Koscielny. Mertesacker would go for the fight, Koscielny would be the one in behind with the pace and cleaning it up. But with White and Gabriel, they're both very athletic. They're both very good on the ball as well. And I think having them two now has stopped the over reliance on Kieran Tierney.
yeah, 100%. I know it's a bit too early in terms of old school comparisons, but I'd like to see if Ben White can turn into Sol Campbell and Carlo Torre because that was a very good partnership in the middle of the defense there. But yeah, on to Kieran Tierney, like the over reliance on him. Obviously, we all know this as Arsenal fans. That over the last couple of seasons, he has been the number one attacking outlay. So for me, I think that now we've got more avenues. Some people say that he's in bad form. Others, I I said maybe I actually said on Twitter maybe he may be in bad form, but I'm not having the slander on his name saying that he's now become a bad player, and because he simply hasn't. It's just the fact that we have other avenues and we don't have to rely on him 24/7. The fact is that yes, he may misplace one or two passes, so does anybody else. And like to say he's positionally all over the place as well that I've seen on Twitter is I just find that a bit ridiculous considering that you got to think he's been asked to push up higher to suffocate the other team. So therefore, he's not always going to be in the left wing back or full back slot. It is going to need one of the midfielders to cover, which I believe in the system that we're implementing dovetails. So it's it's interesting because obviously football's just a game of opinions, but some people really need to take into consideration the system of what we're playing, and it's not a traditional fullback or wing back role, so to speak.
Yeah, I love that comparison to Carlo Torre and Sol Campbell, by the way. And I think that the defense we have now is very, very similar to the one we had back then with Lauren at right back. You've got Tomiyasu. They're both very similar, more defensive than going forward, but they can do that. And then obviously Tierney and Ashley Cole, similar kind of
Mhm.
players. So I love that. And I think another big reason why we didn't lose on Saturday was the goalkeeper. Aaron Ramsdale is every week proving all the fans that didn't want him to sign in, saying we pay too much.
Mm.
He's proven them wrong.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? I was scrolling through Facebook today at work, and it was quite funny because an AFTV video come up, and it was of Robbie interviewing DT about Aaron Ramsdale, and he's like, "No, don't want him. Terrible goalkeeper." I wonder what his opinion is now, because as we've always said here, Aaron Ramsdale is a very good goalkeeper. He's just had really shoddy defenses in front of him, and you know he's somebody that's infectious, and he loves being here. He gets annoyed if he concedes, as we saw against Spurs. He gets annoyed if players aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing in front of him, and rightly so. And you think under under the late Wenger days, it was a point of nobody in the team shouts at each other or even has a pop at each other to make them do better. It's all very much, oh come on boys, let's do better. Blah, blah, blah. Not now. If somebody wants to have a scream and shout at somebody, so be it, and good for it, because a lot of players that we had previously could have done with a rocket out their ass from a goalkeeper, from a defender. Um, so for me, like I think he's somebody that is growing into the role. He's only going to get better as well. It wouldn't actually surprise me if by the World Cup he starts as number one goalkeeper. I honestly think he will oust Pickford.
Yeah, I actually completely agree because you think right now England goalkeepers that have been in the squad recently, Dean Henderson's not playing,
Nope.
Nick Pope is out of form, kind of, Pickford is out of form, Johnston, no disrespect, is in the Championship. Aaron Ramsdale is keeping clean sheets for one of the biggest clubs in England. So I can I can only agree with you on that. I think he's on the way to being England number one, and I can happily say between me and you, we both wanted Aaron Ramsdale at the club, and for this reason, we actually looked at his underlying metrics on a Y Scout and all that kind of thing, and we saw the potential there, didn't we? Really?
Yeah, yeah, and it's hard to I'd say it's hard to figure out a young goalkeeper's metrics because obviously they can be outstanding one season, then drop off the face of a cliff on another season. And again, it's partnerships in front. If there's a defence that's chopping and changing in front of the goalkeeper, it's not beneficial because everybody has a bit of panic in certain scenarios if they're under pressure. But what I like about Ramsdale is he's consistent. His saving ability is always to be okay. If I can't gather this in, I'm pushing it wide, or if I can't push it wide, I'm still getting to this and hoping my defense bails me out. Because you think about the save that he made just in front of Morpay. I'm pretty certain if Leno was in goal, and this is no disrespect to Leno, because ultimately I think that he's still good enough to be our number one. But I think that Ramsdale brings more. But I think in that scenario, I don't think Leno flings himself at the ball. I think that he lets that run across and then tries to deal with Morpay's reaction rather than dealing with the first initial. But the way that Ramsdale was set on the near post and he sprung and just flapped that ball away, that's what we need. We need that bravery. And I think that's something that has missed in a Arsenal goalkeeper for a very, very long time. Obviously, people can point to saying, oh, Emi Martinez was brave. Was he though? Because I think with Emi, it was more of his stature bailed him out in a lot of situations rather than his braveness. Now, that's not to say I think that he shouldn't have gone, because at the time, and I still stand by this, at the time, if you give me put me in the same place of time between Martinez and Leno, I'm still sticking with Leno at that time. But looking back on hindsight, and this is where people have really got to apply context, yes, we did let the wrong goalkeeper go, but that was the choice of the goalkeeper, not of the club. So, well, anyway, enough of them two. Ramsdale, he he's somebody that is giving our attack a lot more. He's able to get us out of the press because he's very comfortable with the ball at his feet. He's he's able to essentially be that guy that can go, okay, we're under pressure. I will release that pressure by clipping it accurately into a winger. And it won't be into a chest, it'll be to the winger's feet so they can instantly get going. So yeah, he just brings a lot more to this number one position than what Leno does currently. And I think that isn't going to change anytime soon.
No, I completely agree. And you're talking about press there. Brighton really suffocated us on Saturday. They stopped us playing out from the back, and I felt Sambi and Partey kind of struggled in the middle against their press. And I said it to you, and this is probably just me being a little bit biased, but I thought we kind of missed Xhaka setting the tempo in the middle of the pitch. I like Sambi a lot, but I don't think he has that yet. The knack of knowing when to play fast and when to play safe, kind of thing.
No, but this is where I have some issues with certain people putting expectation on Sambi. Yes, Sambi is a very good player, very good young player. The thing for me is in that situation, he should not be the tempo setter. The more experienced, and that is Thomas Partey, should be the person that's setting the tempo in that field. Now, I think if you take into the weather conditions into consideration, if it was a dry day on another day, I think that we don't struggle as much because we'd be able to get that ball into the center of the park, clip it wide. But where you had that wind and the rain, it's gonna skid and it's gonna go further. You can't take something off it because the sheer size of that defense. So that's one of your weapons of attack gone. But I think in the middle of midfield, Erdegaard didn't help because he had a bad game, unfortunately. Um, it was a real shame to see because I thought this was a game that he could have gotten the ball and really dictated in that middle. Um, but
You could really say all the front four had terrible games.
yeah, yeah. But another day, the cross from I think it was Tierney that come over, where Dunk missed it. All we had to do is just tap it in the back of the net. Another day that goes in. But it's one of them. It's one of them. But ultimately, I think if it boils down to it, come the end of the season, go okay. You can point to potentially the Brighton draw that getting you into Europe. I'll take it. You know, because last year, if you take into the whole context, the conditions, fans back into the stadium, whatever, I don't think that we win that. Not win that. I don't think we even draw that. To be perfectly honest, so it's how you take it really. It is how you take it.
Yeah. Talking of the front four, Nicholas Pepe is another player that's he's getting a bit of stick online, and we've had this discussion personally and in our group chats and whatnot. Uh, I'm of the opinion it's not going to work for Pepe at Arsenal. I think he's the most inconsistent player that I've ever seen. He's so he's so good at being inconsistent. I don't get it. One game he looks a world beater like he did against Norwich, and then he comes off the bench on Saturday and looks like he couldn't control the football at all. And for me, I think obviously I've put in the title here. Is it who do you start on the right, Pepe or Saka? I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Pepe's a conundrum, man, because obviously it's not an Arteta signing. He didn't need to have a contract renewal or such. He's not really commanding that starting role. He's too predictable as well for a possession game. He's too predictable. He doesn't go either way. You just know that he's going to try and cut in and go on his left foot. Um, I he he, and this is the weird thing. He was one of our highest goal scoring players last season, but it's it should be more. I don't think possession play suits him at all.
No.
Because you look at Lille when he was there, he was either playing on the right or he was playing as a cam on the counter. And where he had space to run into and really charge at people, that helped him. But where we're doing possession and we want to suffocate in these small spaces, he just seems bereft of ideas of what he's going to be doing. And I think that's really taking a toll on his confidence. Ultimately, I think that he's too much of a confidence player. And if I'm Arteta and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, okay, got this player. He's not really doing it. We've got Saka. Saka's going to be starting. What do I do coming up to the window? Do I start planning for a Pepe departure in the summer and start putting the feelers out, or do I bring somebody else in January to replace him? And if somebody comes in for Pepe, then so be it. See you later. Um, Personally, I'd like to see Serge Gnabry back at the club. I see today that apparently he's in contract talks to extend with Bayern. Um, but yeah, it's a difficult one with Pepe. He's just a player that you just can't seem to put your finger on him clicking. Because what, as you say, one day he clicks and it's wonderful. The next day he clicks out and it's fucking shit, to be honest. And
Yeah.
I know that a lot of clubs like double or treble team up on him, but it's not even got that goal to to just dink the ball round the corner to get out of that space. He tries to dribble through, gets crowded out, and then they're on the counter attack.
I think I said it like perfectly the other day. Saka went from playing at left back to right wing at 18 and did everything we wanted from Pepe
Mm.
straight away. He hit those assist numbers. He was hitting. I know he wasn't scoring as many, but he was creating the chances and whatnot. And I just don't understand. Pepe has that. What, he has 6 years on him, and I don't know. It's just I know they're
I think
different type of players, but
are they
if
though?
you're choosing
Really?
if you're choosing someone to play on the left, I'd rather give Martinelli the chance.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my thoughts, Martinelli. Personally, I thought he should have gone out on loan in the summer to get regular game minutes because he's coming up to that age of he needs regular minutes. But is he going to get him in front of Smith Rowe? Smith Rowe at the moment, I don't think so. He's not come on
Probably
off
not.
the bench. Has he actually had minutes this season?
I think he played in the first two games,
Oh yeah,
and that's been it.
yeah,
And that's solely
they,
because we had no other option.
yeah. And that's the issue, man. It's like it's difficult because obviously, like we know the ability the boy's got, but is is it something that's going to explode this year? I'm not so sure. And especially if they're trying to prime him as a striker, me and you disagree on this. I don't think that he is a striker. I don't think he will be a striker, and I think that he needs to really learn his trade as a either left forward or a left inside forward or a left winger. So I think that's where he's most effective. I know he he's a bit like Aubameyang in that aspect. He drifts into the striking positions. But do I think that he's good enough to be playing with his back towards goal? No, not yet. Anyway.
Not a chance. Talking of strikers, actually, moving on to the next segment, there was a report today saying, I think it's from Mark Irwin at The Sun, that
Mm.
Arsenal and Mikel Arteta want a young Premier League striker with the names of Calvert-Lewin and Ollie Watkins being rumoured as targets. What is your opinion on either one of those? Do you want one of them, or is there anyone else? I know you're a big fan of Ivan Toney.
Yes. So if you give me the choice out of the two, I would go with Ollie Watkins because I think that he's got the potential to really kick on and be an elite striker. He's doing the trade at Aston Villa. He's learning how to play with back towards goal. I just think that if he's surrounded by better players, it elevates him. I know when he was at Brentford, he was hitting numbers, very good numbers at Brentford, and when he was there, I was like, boy, we need to be looking at this kid to get him in. Um, but ultimately, he's gone to Villa, done very well, and I think that he within the next year, 2 years, will be going to a big club because they'll look at him. He's going to improve and improve. He's got that electric pace in behind as well, which is a massive asset. I just think that he probably needs this season just to round off his overall play. I think having Danny Ings at Villa as well, having that experienced head round him will help him do so. Um, he would be my choice. I know you've had a massive want for Calvert Lewin, but for me, I think that he's too crooked. To be perfectly honest, that's a big
Yeah.
worry.
So obviously, I've wanted Cavalier for a couple of years now, and I did a little bit of comparisons in the last few days because obviously I watched Aubameyang play absolutely disgracefully at Brighton, no fault of his own because obviously we had to play long. And he was up against three giants, but I was like, well, comparing strikers, like who could we like sign in that role? And obviously the Sevilla striker El Naziri, I
Hmm.
think he is. He popped up. Vlavic from Fiorentina popped up, and Calvert Lewin. But then I went through the injury records. Calvert Lewin struggled massively last season.
Hmm.
Struggled massively the season before, and is starting to struggle massively this season for fitness. And if Arsenal want to be a top club in the country and in Europe again, they need their centre forward firing every week.
Yep.
I don't think Calvert Lewin is going to stay on the pitch for every week.
Oh. And especially as we see in other teams, they like to throw in some crunching challenges towards us. So if they do that to him, then that'll probably put him out for what, 12 weeks at a time.
Yeah. So obviously, in that report, it was only Watkins and Calvert Lewin. I think it said to replace Lacazette.
Hmm. Yep.
Uh, there was also another report. I think it was a couple of days ago that said Arsenal were looking at swapping or involving Lacazette in a deal for El Nazeri from Sevilla, which I think I'm not sure the player himself would take that. Leaving a Champions League club to come to us at the moment, halfway through the season, is a bit strange.
See, I think, admittedly, I've not seen much of this El Nasuri. Um, Probably need to hop on Wisecout to have a bit of a look at him, to be honest. But from what I have seen, I think that he's more of an Aubameyang replacement than Lacazette, to be perfectly honest.
I would agree with that.
Um, he looks good, but as I say, I've not watched enough of him to make an overall formed opinion. Obviously, we discussed Isk in the summer window. He would be a number one option for myself. I like Watkins can step into that role, but if we're looking at Lacazette replacements, we've got that already in the club in Balogun. Now, I know it's putting a lot of pressure on the young person's shoulders, and personally, I've always said that for the next couple of seasons, he should probably be third choice. But if we're talking about giving somebody a different option, I would love to see us. Well, actually, I'd love to see Brentford get relegated first and foremost, and for us to go and nick Ivan Tony because I think that he would give the club a lot more and a different type of striker to hear. Now, I know a lot of people will think, oh, Ivan Tony, but he's disrespected the club. I didn't like his comments that he made against the club, but if
But he
you
wasn't wrong.
no, and this is the thing, if you put it into context, that's where we are right now. And that's where we have been for a while because what was it said that Arsenal need a striker? Yeah, we do. Because I was like,
Well, especially in that game that we played against them, we didn't have ours, did we?
exactly. So Lacazette doesn't really get over 14 goals a season in the Premier League. Aubameyang's been misfiring for the last couple of seasons for various reasons. So we haven't really had a striker at the club. We've got two experienced strikers, but we've got no young, hungry striker right now. We've got strikers that are coasting, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, as I've always said, Ryan, I am an advocate for having one quick striker that's an in behind striker and one striker that is like a big target man. That if things are going wrong, you can hit him, he'll hold the ball, bring others in, and then get on to the end of it as well. Like I said, does that to a certain extent, but in terms of getting on the end of it, it's a big no because he just hasn't got the motor in him anymore to get up the pitch.
Yeah, and there's one player that I want to throw out there name wise, and he's caught my eye quite a bit this season. The RB Salzburg striker, Adeyemi. He's a young 19-year-old German/Nigerian striker. He's absolutely unbelievable.
Mm.
He's so good on the ball. He's so good in behind. He kind of reminds me actually of Isaac, the Swedish guy.
Yep.
I think either one of those two. I'm still ruining the summer when we should have signed Tammy Abraham. I know people gave me stick for saying he was my first choice, but looking at him at Roma, he's just absolutely brilliant at bringing others into play again on the end of things.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think I'm happy that the move's working out for Tammy so far because obviously he waited for us to make that move. I'm disappointed that we couldn't get over the line. So again, I think that it's like many of the Chelsea second string that are English are underrated. I I think if he was given a consistent run in a Premier League team, he'd easily hit 20, 30 goals. Easily. Um, but it is what it is. I think that dealing with Chelsea in that respect was a very difficult scenario for us because where they wanted to sell, we wanted a loan with option. Roma ponied up a lower fee and also included a buyback of 80 million. We wouldn't include a buyback to Chelsea. So difficult scenarios. It's just unfortunate. But as I said, there was ample opportunity in the last window, and I think Edu dropped the ball. But if he's going to if he's continuing planning for the succession of windows, then really he needs to step up and make sure we get who we need in, and especially in the January window, a centre mid is well, one or two centre mids is priority.
And a forward because Pepe and Aubameyang are going to the African Cup of Nations as well,
Yeah,
which leaves us again with just Lacazette, Balogun. Oh no, we've got Eddie as well, but I thought Eddie was going to leave in January anyway.
yeah.
But moving on from that, a tweet caught my eye today from Fabrizio Romano. Arsenal are following William Saliba's progress closely. They are really happy with the French centre back. Arsenal told Saliba weeks ago that they trust him 100% for the future. He joined Marseille on loan to play all the games as a starter, then he'll be back. Which I think is what me and you have said from the beginning. Really, he's just gone to get games because if you look at the players we signed this summer, Sambi has played 80 professional games. Ben White's played over 100 professional games in the first team. So they're young, but they've got that experience of playing proper football.
Yep.
Whereas Saliba, since he's signed for Arsenal at 18, he's only made 49 appearances in the first team due to injury, due to early suspension of the season, due to COVID. But I think that's very positive that Arsenal have said to him, look, we trust you, you're our player, we want you to come back. But how do you see it panning out when he does come back?
Do you know what? I think I'm a little bit tired of the William Saliba situation because it's been tiresome over the last couple of years. Obviously, Arsenal, along with Saliba, have had a plan. There's certain accounts with agendas will try and stir trouble against the club and against the player, but ultimately, I see it working out both for him and for Arsenal in the immediate short term at the end of this season. If Ben White and Gabriel strike